Hello, and welcome back to the Get Your Fix podcast, the podcast where we talk about all things fandom, good, bad, and ugly. I am your host, Vaughn, and I am so excited to be recording the next episode. You all were super wonderful about the pilot, so I'm excited to continue this project with you. And I am really excited to have my very first guest today. Guest, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Joelle, and I'm a friend of Vaughn's, and we've been friends for 5 years now.
Yeah, wow.
And quite honestly, it started all because of our topic today.
That is so true. Natural segue. Love that. Yeah, so this is going to be the first of many, many K-pop episodes, probably. And we are going to be talking about a specific K-pop group called 17 today. A lot of our friendship kind of revolves around 17, but we became friends before I liked 17,
Yeah.
so it's not the total foundation. But yeah, so we're going to be chatting about 17 today. And I have a pretty long relationship with K-pop, but a somewhat new relationship with 17. So I'm excited to talk to you about it today.
Me too.
So yeah, just to get us started, I thought it would be fun to kind of do a brief overview of 17 as a group, kind of leveling the playing field for the conversation that we're going to have. And I thought it'd be really fun if you gave the overview of 17 as the resident carrot of our friend group.
Sure. So I got into 17 in the end of 2017 and the beginning of 2018. So that was their clap era. A lot of our friends agree is a very prominent era for 17. But to take you back to 2015, 17 debuted actually on today's date, 8 years ago, May 26th. And they are a group of 13 guys. And there are 3 subgroups kind of within the group. There's a performance unit, a hip hop unit, and a vocal unit. And they're all goofy. They're all great guys from what we can tell. And I think that kind of is what connects a lot of people to 17, is they have a very personalized emotional connection with a lot of carrots, and they do that through a lot of fan service, and they have a really cool vibe. They're self-producing. Their performance team or vocal team leader, Woozy, is the main producer for the group and writes basically all of their songs, and is just a very great writer and connects to a lot of people. And I think we've talked about this a lot, is that each part of their journey has connected to where we are in that journey.
Yeah.
So their
17 is for millennials.
Yeah, 17 is very much for millennials. When they debuted, it was that era that we were all in, and then especially now, it's their era very much connects to our lives. And
I feel like we've grown with them.
Yeah, we have.
A lot, which is cool.
Yeah. And they're the type of band that you can connect to them at any time of your life, and you can find them at any point and still love them.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like that's especially true for our individual relationship with them, which is why I wanted you to be the guest for my 17 episode, because our journeys with 17 are very different.
Yeah.
And we still love them the same, which is cool.
Yeah.
So thank you for that little brief overview. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're not familiar with K-pop as a genre or a community, Korean pop music has obviously exploded in the United States over the last several years, particularly I feel like during COVID. I feel like we came out of where we're at now in the pandemic and just exploded with these international tours, but it wasn't always like that. So K-pop has obviously been popular in Asia for a really long time, but it wasn't as explosive as it is now in the States. It was really pretty niche and ethnic enclaves in the United States, particularly in Asian American enclaves. And so the first group that I actually ever heard of was Girls' Generation, way, way back in the day, in middle school.
Long time ago.
Yeah, a really long time ago. But I didn't become a fan of K-pop until the spring of 2016. is when I really actually started listening to K-pop actively instead of like passively through my friends.
Yeah.
And like Joel mentioned, 17 debuted the year before that. So they were definitely in that like cycle of when I first started listening to K-pop.
Yeah.
I was listening to like Monse and Aju Nice, and I was like, oh, this group is cool. And then I had an experience where my favorite member was a teenager.
Which put you off for a very long time.
A really long time. I was like, oh my gosh, my favorite member is a literal child. So, and at the time I was 21, which when you're 21, age gaps are a much bigger deal, right? Because the difference between 17 and 21 versus 25 and 29
right.
is completely different.
Right.
So I ignored 17 for like, how many years did I ignore them?
It would have been, you got into them, what, in 2020?
Yeah, 2020.
So quite a long time.
4 years. I was like, I don't know anything. I don't want anything to do with 17 for like 4 years.
And that had nothing, like, did not have to do with anything but me trying to get you into 17 during those years. You were very adamant that you were like, I'm not doing this. I can't do it. They're too young.
Yep.
But look at where we are now.
And then you stayed friends with me anyway, which I think is amazing. Because when we first met in 2018, I was actually your birthday weekend.
Yep.
Which is why we're hanging out now.
Yes.
Because it's your birthday weekend.
Yes.
And your birthday overlaps with 17's anniversary.
Yes. By 12 hours.
Which is amazing. In KST.
Yeah.
And so we did like a PowerPoint party of our favorite K-pop groups.
Yep.
Which was really fun. And you did 17. And I was like actively avoiding the screen. I was like, I'm not looking because I was like, I can't look at that kid. And then something happened in 2020.
Yeah.
They had a comeback, and my favorite member, who I will now reveal is Lee Chen, do you know? was not 17 anymore.
No.
And I was like, oh, okay.
He was a man.
Right. And also, like I said, like, I had grown up a lot, and he had grown up a lot, so, like, now that we're both in our mid to late 20s, it wasn't, like, weird anymore.
Right.
You know?
I just so happened to fall in love with the member that was the same age as me.
Yeah.
So I had a very different experience.
Right.
So when I first got into 17, our mutual friend Megan got me specifically into K-pop. You became friends with her because of K-pop.
Yeah.
And I was just strung along into this.
Yeah, we kind of like
into this universe.
Kind of like pulled you in with us.
And she came over, I remember it plain as day, came over with a list of music videos and said, we're going to watch all of these music videos and then you're going to pick one that's your favorite.
Yeah.
And I was pretty adamant. I was like, I'm not going to get into more music. Like I was already into a lot of music. Music has always been an emotional connection for me. And so to have a lot of music connections, can be overwhelming. And so I was very adamant that I was not going to get into it like I did with pop punk.
Well, and that's actually an overlap from my first episode.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that we first talked about when we first became friends is how we're both like elder emos, pop punk fans through and through. And
you
like,
Fall Out Boy, me all time low.
Yeah, definitely.
It was definitely one of these moments where she showed me a bunch and she knew exactly which ones to pick because I am a dancer. Like I have been a dancer for a really long time and K-pop is known for their dancing.
Yep.
And
especially 17.
And so she showed me some Aju Nice and for a week after, Aju Nice was playing in my head constantly like an earworm and I couldn't get it out. And finally I was like, gave in and said, whatever, like we're just going to go deep dive into who they are, what they're about. Like, let's listen to some other music, see if I vibe with the rest of it. And I was hooked in a week. Like, knew exactly, like, this was the group that I was going to fall for. Like, I am not straying far away from them. Like, I'm going to hold tight and learn everything about them because I have to. And all of a sudden, I watched Change Up. Because Change Up had just come out.
Right.
Like, a month before I had gotten into them. And there's this scene where Scoops looks up at the camera in his rose-colored glasses, and he's sitting in a car, and he's just vibing like the Leo that he is. And
well, and you mentioned this with like the Baksu era.
Yeah.
That was like a turning point for 17's sex appeal.
Yeah.
Because they were a bright concept.
Yep.
from debut.
Yep.
They were really like sunshiny, like I wouldn't say they were like bubblegum, but just very like bright energy.
Yeah.
And then Boxu came out and they were like, we're here to fuck, actually.
It's like, we are here. We want you to love us in a very sexual way.
Yeah.
Like, let's do it.
They were like, we're all grown up, babes. And there was also like, if you are a fan of 17, you know exactly what we're talking about. The killing moment with Coops.
Yep. In Boxu.
That was like Coops's. That was his second debut.
Yep. With that lean over and the gray hair and just like everything about it.
No shirt under the blazer.
And then when Change Up happened, it was like a different version of that Coops.
Yeah.
And I looked at him dead in those eyes, like with the rose-colored glasses, and I was like, I don't care who this person is. I don't care what he's about, but this is it. Like, this is my bias. I just learned this word. I just knew, like, I just found out what a bias was, and I said, this is him. Like, I don't care. And I remember going into work like a week or two later, talking with my coworker about it, and I said, I think I found my bias. And she goes, don't worry, it's going to change, because your first bias is never your bias, like your future bias.
And I would say that you are the exception to that rule.
Very much so, because I stuck to him like glue. And if you know anything about Scoops, he is a Leo, and he is very much you can only like him person. Like, he says it in fan calls. He is very much a jealous man. Like, if you like somebody else, he's like, you can't.
He's so, like, there's like a carrot joke, which I forgot to say this at the top of the episode, but like, fans of 17 are called carrots, if you're not familiar. 24 karat gold kind of thing, right? Like, diamonds is their concept, so we are carrots. And there's like an inside joke among carrots that like Coops is in a parasocial relationship with Cooperons.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
As much as you are with him, he is also with you.
Yes, exactly. And so I stuck to him, and I'm very loyal to him. Like, everybody in our friend group knows, like, I don't give a crap about anybody else. And that, like, as a whole, I love 17. Like, I love every individual one of them. Yeah. Like, they are my babies. Like, I want them forever. Like, I want to have them with me forever. But Scoops is like mine. Right. And I am the Scoops friend. Like,
yeah, you really are. And I think like that's a good transition to talk to a little bit about like the culture of being a K-pop fan of a boy group in particular. Yeah. So in like the broader industry, I would say like the highest grossing groups historically forever in K-pop have always been girl groups. Yeah. And there's a lot of reasons for that, like intersecting factors to that I'm not going to get into in this episode, probably in a future episode, because I have a friend who is a super girl group stan, and she would love to talk about that. But one of the reasons is that South Korea has mandatory military conscription. And so girl groups don't have to enlist, so they have consistent careers. And being a fan of a boy group, and this is something that I don't think either of us really realized when we first got into K-pop, that we were going to be like army spouses. And so 17 is what we call like a third gen group, which means that they're all approaching their enlistment era soon. Yep. Which is really challenging because this, like Joel mentioned, is their 8-year anniversary. Yep. Literally today is their 8-year anniversary, and this is when their careers start to kind of shift. Yeah. Especially with a group as large as 17, like 13 members. There's a 5-year or a 4-year age gap between the oldest member and the youngest member, which means that their enlistment period is going to be really long. And I think for you, like as a Kuprang, he's going to go first.
It's absolutely devastating.
But you also have the benefit of him coming back first.
That's true.
Which is nice.
You have to wait the longest.
I do. I know. I'm like, oh, Lee Chen is going to be... He's going to be in the military in like 2030 or something. No, I'm just kidding. But I think the nice thing about feeling so strong in who your favorite member is that when their careers inevitably change, you will still have that connection to that member. So like Joelle was mentioning our mutual friend Megan. Megan and I became friends because we're VIPs, which are fans of Big Bang, and in particular G-Dragon. Like, we are diehard G-Dragon fans. Like, I have a G-Dragon tattoo. And so that's how Megan and I started becoming friends. And so Big Bang actually enlisted in 2018, which was so hard because they were like the group at the time. BTS was just starting to take them over. But they were, like, before BTS, really, like, the top K-pop group. And, like, now, obviously, if you know anything about Big Bang, they've had a lot of scandals.
Yep.
So the era that they're in now is that they're all solo artists. And, like, what's nice about being a G-Dragon fan is that I still get to enjoy his solo music. And I love it. And it's good. And
Right.
it's challenging and fun. And I think that we will see a lot of that from 17, like, post-enlistment.
Yeah, I think so, too. And I think 17 is very much one of those groups that is stronger together, but it's not that they can't be solo artists. I think some of them can more so than others, but I think as a group, they're so strong.
Yeah, they really
and it's hard to beat that. And I think another mutual friend and I were talking about it when I was visiting Korea, as it's really hard for us as carrots to gravitate towards groups that are smaller because we just love the impact and the power that 17 presents as a 13-member strong group.
Yeah, totally.
And so it's hard. I love TXT, but it's really hard for me to get into TXT as much as I am with 17.
Yeah.
Because it's such a small group compared to 13 members.
And that's actually part of why the main reason I didn't get into 17 was Lee Chen. But a secondary reason was because there were so many members.
Yeah.
Because I am a tried and true 5-member group stan.
Right.
Big Bang was 5 members. Winner was 5 members. Obviously, neither of those groups are 5 members anymore. But they were. And then Tomorrow by Together, TXT, that Joel was mentioning, is 5 members.
Yeah.
Like, for me, the 5-member recipe was, like, the sweet spot.
Right.
And I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to like 13 of them. And now, as, like, a diehard carrot, I'm like, I can't imagine liking less than 13 men.
Right?
Like, 13 is, like, it feels large, but when you're, like, immersed in, like, the 17 carat culture, like, I feel like I spend time with all of them.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. And I think I've said it multiple times throughout our entire friendship is that if 17 wasn't my first group, I probably would not have gotten into them.
Yeah.
Because it was a huge undertaking. And I mean, it took a good 2.5 months of me being a full carrot to really know each individual person. Because it does take a long time to know them.
Yeah.
But once you do, it feels like you have a personal connection with each individual one of them.
Yeah, totally.
And I think they are really good about posting on Weverse, and like they do lives and they post on Instagram now, which if any of you guys are around, like Instagram was not something that they could do until really at the start of the pandemic.
Yeah. There was a lot of, there are, if you're not familiar with K-pop culture and like idol culture, there are, depending on the company, a lot of restrictions on what idols can and can't do in terms of their social media presence. And I would say that there's way more freedom now for idols than there used to be.
Yeah.
They kind of have control of their presence online more than they did back in like 2016.
Right.
For sure.
And I definitely think some members post more than others. Me being a Kuprang, we get the least.
I don't know. Dino is like so dry. I get one Dino post every like 2 months, maybe.
That's true. Okay, maybe we get a little bit more than Dino, but there's like months at a time where there is nothing.
Yeah.
But he is very active on Weverse and like posts a lot on Weverse and posts a lot. They post a lot of pictures on Twitter. We are constantly getting content from them. And especially recently, I think we are overwhelmed. But
they're really overproducing content because the members born in 1995 are all about to leave.
Yeah, and I don't want to think about it because it honestly makes me want to cry every time I think about it. And I think
because this is your first enlistment
yeah,
experience.
This would be my first big experience. I mean, definitely being into other K-pop groups, have seen it happen, as most recently with Kai, but it's definitely going to be my first like major love going in.
Like your ult going in.
Yeah.
You know? I feel like for me the Band-Aid was ripped off so early because my ult is G-Dragon.
Yeah.
Which ult is short for ultimate bias, like your number one favorite member of any group. And like mine is G-Dragon. And he left in 2018. And it was so hard. So now I'm like, now I kind of feel a little bit numb to it. Yeah. You know? But this is going to be your first like big.
I mean, JB's hit me a little bit hard, but at the same time, JB's didn't feel like a Band-Aid. It kind of felt like a drop.
Yeah.
Like, hey, here's an album. Bye.
Yeah.
Like, I'm leaving
Yeah.
for the next 18 months
Mhm.
to 2 years. Who knows? And we still don't really know what's going on with him.
Yeah.
But I also think like this is going to hit a lot harder than JB.
Oh, for sure.
And because Scoops is my ultimate bias.
Yeah.
So I'm not prepared for it.
Mhm.
I am going to cry for probably a month. And anytime someone mentions him, we'll probably cry.
Yeah.
But we'll all get through it.
Mhm.
It's going to be rough. Hopefully we get to see them before it happens.
I know, which, again, you're so good at a natural segue. Like, I think that's a good transition to talk about the OTU tour.
Yeah.
And your experience with that, because that was right before I got into 17.
Yes.
So this was right before the pandemic, January of 2020. And I had gone up to New York to hang out with all of y'all because it was also our mutual friend Megan was about to move to Korea.
Yep.
It was like her last hurrah.
Yes.
And so we all went for the weekend, and I didn't go to the concert.
No, because you were very adamant. You were not a 17 fan.
I was like, I don't care about those boys. And I talked about it the whole weekend about how I don't like 17 because I was trying so hard not to like 17. And so, like, I didn't actually go to the concert, and I really regret that. And then I got into them, like, 4 months later.
Yeah. And then the pandemic happened.
And then the pandemic happened in March. That was the last time that you saw them before we saw them last summer in 2022 when they came back. And, like, obviously the whole pandemic was in the middle. So, and there was something very particularly hard about OTU Tour.
Yes. So I remember this plain as day. I wouldn't call it a core memory because it was devastating, but it was a memory that will stick in my mind forever. Megan and I had gone to Super M in DC. We had a bus or a car full of people. It felt like a bus because it was a huge SUV. There were like 6 of us in this SUV, and we had gone up to DC to see Super M, which is another group, and had driven back the same night, like the young 20s that we thought we were.
Yep.
And I was laying in bed with another mutual friend, Emily, and the next morning had woken up to a message from Megan, who was in the other room, and it was the notice that Scoops had gone on hiatus for a mental break. And I started sobbing. This was also after we bought the tickets to the concert.
Right.
So I started crying. Emily rolled over. She asked if I was crying. I said, yes, go back to sleep, because I could not process what was going on. And then everyone came into the bed and was like, it's okay. Like, that he'll be back before the show. It's only a few months. He'll be back by January. It's okay. And he wasn't back.
Yeah. But before you talk about the experience on site, I want to like pause to talk about like that experience is the thesis statement of this podcast.
Yeah.
Because I think you and I have both had this experience even before we were into K-pop, but like in other special interests that we've had. We are both the type of people that when we like something, we really, really like it. And so many people don't understand why that was so emotional for you.
No.
Like I can like picture people, like, I talked about this a little bit in the Fall Out Boy episode, people being like, why do you care so much? Like, it's not a big deal. Like, you can still listen to their music. Like, it's just a band. It's just a band, right? But, like, everybody that you were with and, like, our friend group 100% understood what you were feeling. Yeah. And, like, that to me is, like, the crux of what this podcast is, that there's a lot of us in this, like, fandom space who, like, do really get it. And that's what makes it really special to me.
And I'm glad that I was around people who understood me, because had I been at home with like my mom or my sister, they would be like, why are you crying?
Right.
It's not that big of a deal. He just needs a break. And I'm like, yes, he needs a break. But at the same time, this is the first time I'm seeing them because this was what, 2019?
When it was announced,
It was 2019 when it was announced, late 2019. So I was about 2 years into my carrotness. And so this would be the first time I'm seeing them. And
back then there was no guarantee that they would ever come back.
Right.
Because K-pop was not as popular as it is now. Now we're spoiled where we know that they're going to come back every year. Yeah. Like, they're going to tour the States because it is so profitable. Right. Back then,
we had no idea.
We were like, oh my God, a K-pop group's coming to America?
Right.
Like, that, for all you knew back then, like, we couldn't have predicted how popular K-pop is now.
Yeah.
And, like, you didn't know if that was going to be the only time you were going to get to see them.
Right.
Back
Because
then.
this was truly going to be the first and only time that I could ever imagine myself seeing them.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a huge undertaking for them to come over here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had thought, I'm never going to be able to see him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's never going to happen. Like, I'm never going to see all 13 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that was devastating.
Yeah.
And I mean, we had from November to January to just like live in it. And every time I thought about it, I would get sad and I'd be like, I don't know if I want to go, but I do want to go because they are my favorite group.
Mm-hmm.
And quite honestly, the entire concert I sobbed.
Yeah.
From beginning to end. Like, cried the whole time. I get emotional thinking about it now.
I know because I didn't go to the concert, but I was there.
Right.
And like I remember we were standing outside of the Sim.
Yeah.
We were waiting for everybody to check out. And it was just you and me standing outside and you just started crying.
Yeah.
like raw, just like from nothing, just started crying. And I was just like holding you outside on the sidewalk because like I was like, I really do get it. Like just on the streets of New York, just like, and it was such an emotionally charged weekend anyway because Megan was leaving.
Yeah.
And so we were already all a little bit weepy, I think.
Yeah.
And so
it was very emotional.
Yeah.
And just to be in the presence of 17 and then to have them missing one person, it's sad. Like it's really so sad. And I think a lot of people who saw them on this last tour, like, know the sadness of missing a member.
So that's a good point for us to talk about. Yeah. We saw them together last year in DC. Yes. Which was amazing. And that was my first time seeing 17.
Which was amazing.
It was so amazing. We got VIP sound check. We were on that barricade. But it was still COVID. Yeah. And Hoshi and Joshua were not there. And we found out the night before.
We found out the morning of.
For one of them, which member did we find out about?
Me and so our other friend Hillary, which you heard about in the last one.
Yep.
And her sister Bree, the three of us drove up from North Carolina.
Oh, right.
And so we were driving that morning and I was driving and Bree was in the back and I heard a huge gasp and my gut dropped. Yeah. Because as someone who saw them without a member, it's kind of, it's a raw, like emotional feeling.
It's like a gut punch.
Yeah. It hurts. And we had known that like a couple of them had COVID while they were here. There were a couple of shows that a member was missing. There was Dino missing first.
And so Dino was missing from the very first tour date. Right. And I didn't think he was going to be back by the time our concert came up. Yeah. Like I was
emotional.
I was so emotional. Like I felt like you with Coops and like, I literally was like, I was like choked up for like 2 months because I was like, he's not going to be there. Yeah. And I felt, and it was such a conflicting feeling because the night before they were like, Dino will be there. And I was like, oh my God. And then the morning of, they were like, Joshua and Hoshi have COVID. Yep. So it was like this like pendulum and it was so hard because I was so happy and grateful. Yeah. But then now your friends are devastated. Yeah. You know?
Because our friend Bree got to sit up with us and she is a very hard Joshua stan. And so the fact that she was not able to see Joshua while we were on the barricade was really sad for all of us.
Yeah, for everyone. Yeah.
Especially as someone who understands the feeling. It was really sad. And it was really hard to see them at 11 and not 13. Because it's never the same. Yeah. When there's at least one member missing.
There's like this whole tone shift for the whole concert. Yeah. Like, and you can even feel that the members are sad. Yeah. You know? And so that was really hard. And I felt like, not to get overly like political because I talk about that kind of stuff all the time, every day. And the point of this podcast is to have fun. But also like, I do think that political context is relevant. Yeah. Where like so 17's label was purchased by Hybe. Yes. Which is the label that owns the BTS brand. Yes. Which, if you know anything about K-pop, you know that BTS is the magnum opus of K-pop groups in America, right? So, like, Hybe acquired Pledis, which was 17's management company. And they were like, we have to capitalize on the explosion of K-pop in America.
Yep.
And they didn't really care that we were still in a pandemic.
Yes.
Or that the artists might get sick. And, like, so that part of it was, like, really hard because at the crux of it, like, you're disappointed that you're not there, but you're also, like, really concerned about the fact that your favorite artist has COVID.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think a lot of them before the tour had COVID. And so a lot of us were, I think, all but 3 members had COVID before they went on tour.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were all feeling pretty safe in that. We were like, okay, 3 of them had COVID, and Dina was the first person to have COVID that did not have it during the like massive COVID outbreak in 17.
Yes. He had escaped the first infection.
And then got it on the first date.
I'm sure he got it on the plane.
Oh, I'm sure.
You know?
I'm sure. But he was the first one. And so we're like, okay, so far it's only members that haven't had COVID yet.
Yeah.
So we were feeling pretty comfortable in that. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, people who had it already were getting it. Mm-hmm. And we were...
Because Mingyu was second.
Yeah. Mingyu was second, and he had it during the massive outbreak of
2021,
them. And so we were feeling very shaky about it. And it was not... Like, it was not a good feeling, especially living in a situation where we know the rest of the world feels like it's over, but we don't think that.
Right, exactly.
And
we were like N95'd up at 17.
We were masked up.
But this was something that I think was, again, like going back to like the culture of it. Carrots did a mask project for the Face the Sun tour.
Yeah.
Where they were handing out masks. And they were, like, handing out, like, stickers to decorate masks. And they were, like, they had, like, the digital flyers. And they were, like, Carrots, mask up for the concert.
Yep.
And I just felt so, like, this huge sense of, like, camaraderie at the concert with these people that were around us. Because I just felt like these are people that, like, share our values.
Yeah.
You know? And I feel like that's something that's particularly special about the Carrot fandom in particular.
Yeah.
Because I have been to other K-pop shows. And a lot of these people are not good people.
No.
Like, they're unkind, they're selfish, they will trample you for a seat on the barricade. And, like, no one at Face the Sun tour rushed the barricade. Everyone had a mask on. Like, there were no sasaengs around us. Like, I just felt that we could tell. Yeah, which usually you can tell with their big ass cameras and shit. But I just was like, wow, like, this fandom is really special.
Yeah.
You know?
I honestly think that the majority of the Carrots that I have met in my life have been just like so wholesome, and they truly understand like the boundary.
Yeah.
At least the international Carrots that I've met.
Yes.
I obviously haven't met a lot of K Carrots, but most of the ones that I've met here are just very respectful. And there are some people online that are not. And
that's every fandom.
But I think the majority of the ones that especially we have become friends with are very nice. They share our values. We are all just this collective family of Carrots. Yeah. And it's really special to have that.
And I think part of the reason why is because 17 doesn't put up with our shit.
No.
And that's something that I really respect about 17 that like not all groups do.
Yeah.
Like, there is this pressure from the industry, and this is true of Western artists, too, of, like, really rewarding bad behavior of fans.
Yeah.
And, like, bending over backwards to do whatever the fans want. And I think your boy in particular is not afraid of being like, don't talk to me like that.
Yeah.
You know? And, like, they're very, like, don't behave that way. Like, Carrots don't, you know, you are a representation of us. Like, they're very willing to call in their fans' shitty behavior.
Yeah.
And I don't think very many groups actually do that.
No. And I mean, you can see it in videos of just 17 at the airport. Like, Scoops is leading them and, like, pushing people back. And then if someone gets knocked down, he's picking them up. Like, he is very much he's a leader. And, like, he is, in my personal opinion, the best leader. But I know that's not everybody's opinion, and that's okay.
I would say he's one of the best ones, for sure. Like, he definitely has the members' best interests at heart.
Yeah.
And he's, like, not afraid to set boundaries with Carrots. And, like, you know, he's, like, pushing fans away from them at the airport and like scolding people. And even on live, like people making comments about his hair, and he's like, it's my hair, I'm going to do what I want with it.
Yeah.
You know? And like, I think there is this pressure to like be like, do like Ekyo and like, oh, whatever you want, carrots. And like 17 broadly, I don't think really does that, which I really appreciate about them.
I mean, they're millennials. Most of them,
right, exactly.
like a lot of them are millennials, and they're like, nah, I'm not doing this. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot of them, I think, have, so they're a third gen, but I think a lot of them have this like second gen idea behind their idolship. Like they're like, I'm not gonna do this, like I don't have to do it, you're not gonna pay me to do this.
Well, right, because they were broke.
They were so broke.
They were and as a non-carrot in 2016 and 2017, one thing I've always said to you about 17 is that they are a like true like raw talent underdog group of like got where they are because of how talented they are. Because like in 2016, 2017, I would say like Big Bang was huge and they had the power of YG behind them. Right. And same with like EXO, and they had the power of SM behind them. Yep. And like iKON was really popular back then too.
And had YG.
Like those, it was like the big three back then, like GOT7. They had all this like industry power behind them, and they had legacy idols before them who had like built up the brand representation of their company, right? And like most of that brand recognition was built by girl groups, right? And 17 was like, we were like, nobody knew what Pledis was.
No, because Pledis was Orange Caramel, I think. Yeah. And they weren't as huge as some of the other girl groups, and so you didn't have a powerhouse girl group to like back them up. Right. And so they really built themselves up. Like they were broke. And
for them to be in the like Mnet charts with EXO and Big Bang, and even BTS at the time was very popular too. BTS was like in the beginning of their crescendo. Right. And like 17 was on those winner boards with them. Yeah. You know?
Like they got a win very early in their career.
It was their first comeback, right? Pretty You? Yeah. And like that, it was just, they're from this like tiny company. Yep. Like it was just really, I was very impressed by them, even though I was avoiding them, you know? Yeah. So, you know, I think culminating to that, to where now we got to see them at Face the Sun tour, this huge like arena tour. Yes. But we were also like kind of sad because again, it was like 11 members.
I've never seen, at that point, never saw all 13. And that as a full-blown carrot is very hard to process.
But
I just so happened to be going to LA for work. And there was 17 was playing in their first festival in the US, besides KCON, which I don't really consider like a festival.
Yeah, it was like so KCON, for those that don't know, is like a Korean culture conference. Right. And there's usually one in LA and one in New York. But it's like, again, a small convention for K-pop fans. Right. It's not a music festival.
Very much targeted towards K-pop fans, whereas this festival was the first of its kind that combined, that allowed them to like come and share their music with other music lovers. And
like Snoop Dogg was a headliner at this festival.
Snoop Dogg, there was Jane Goodall was there. Don't really know why. It was basically a culture festival for Los Angeles. And I saw the ticket as soon as I booked my flight to LA for work. And I said, well, you know, I can change that flight. And so I did, and I bought a ticket, and I was going to go by myself. I said, you know, I don't care. Like, I have to see 17 full strong, like, as 13 at least once in my life. And this was also at a time where we didn't know when Scoops and Jungwon were going to go into the military. Yeah. Because they were still processing, or like they were still using international age, or non-international age.
Yeah, so for the context of that, in Korea, like they had the Korean age, which is that at Lunar New Year, you turn a year older. Yes. And so most idols are a year older than their like birth certificate birth date in Korea, which means that they would have had to enlisted sooner.
Yeah.
And as of May of this year, they abolished Korean age and are going by international age, which gave every idol
an extra
year of their career, every male idol, the extra year of their career before they have to enlist. So, but we didn't know that back then.
We did not know that in December of last year.
So we were like waiting every day for an enlistment announcement.
Yeah, and I was very devastated. And so I said, well, you know, I have to see 17 as 13 strong at least once in my life before they jet off to the military, and then we're like 5 years of nothing. So
it hurts.
I bought the ticket, and a week or two before, we got a message from our other mutual friend, Allie, to say, hey, I have a flight credit. I'm coming with you. And I said, bet, let's do it.
Yeah.
So she's a fellow Couperang. And so we just vibed. We had a great time. We got to see all 13 of them on stage. And it truly felt like a sound check, because I said before this happened, I said, I want them to come out in like plain street clothes, like just a vibe for an hour, just like play their hearts out to all these people who are really here for Snoop Dogg. And and then there's
like converting the Snoop fans to carrots.
Let's convert these people to carrots. And so I had my carrot bong, which is a light stick that we carry around all the time and decorate, and it's super fun.
I think light stick culture is actually one of my favorite things about being a fan of a K-pop group, because the unity that you feel in an audience at a K-pop show with a light stick that is synced to the Bluetooth of the performance of the show, and like every single light stick lights up the same color at the same time. Yeah. Like, oh my gosh.
It's special. It's beautiful. Special. It's amazing. But we were there at the show, and it was just an hour of music from 17, and they played songs that we haven't heard on tour.
So I was so jealous.
It was amazing. And like my videos look like I'm going insane because I did not care what I was doing. I was vibing, and truly one of my favorite experiences from that show was watching the cameraman for the festival break down and like watch Aju Nice, which 4 carats. Aju Nice is just a party. Like,
iconic.
It's like 20 minutes of jumping and screaming and vibing and like laughing and them faking out that they're getting off stage, and then
it's called
starting
endless,
again.
Endless Aju Nice. Yes. Where they just keep doing it over and over again.
And this cameraman, after like the 3rd time that they faked out and said, psych, he goes, what the fuck is happening? And just like ran to the front of the stage, and it was so funny. And it's like truly what you feel as a carrot, but also for someone who has never experienced it before, it was hilarious to watch someone do it for the first time.
Yeah. I love that too, because like there is these like inside jokes, and again, like not to lean too far into the parasocial, but I do think like in K-pop groups, and then specifically with 17, like we have these like inside jokes as a fandom with the artist. Yeah. Right? Where like we know that the very first note of Aju Nice, we know that we're about to be screaming and jumping for the next 10 minutes. Yeah. Because we know about Endless Aju Nice. Yes. And at a 17 concert, and even at like KCON, that's going to feel normal. Right. But then at this like festival, where
Snoop is about to come on stage.
Yeah.
Everyone's high.
Right. And you're like looking around, and like you and Allie obviously know what's going on. Yeah. And like the handful of carrots who went. But then like the rest of the crowd being like,
I have no idea.
And like I actually was reading some testimonies about that festival in LA. What is it, like LA3C?
Something like that.
And people,
I get it wrong.
I know. It's like C3 or 3C, one of those. But people were being like, people who were not K-pop fans were like, yeah, I don't know what that Korean group was, but like they fuck. Like that was crazy. And I was like, 17, changing the world. Right. You know? And so things like that make me feel very proud of them. Yeah. You know?
I was really proud of them because they played Cheers, which is a leader group or leader unit
subunit, yeah.
Song, and which, back to the beginning of the podcast, was Change Up was also a leader only song.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like the version 2 of Change Up. And Cheers is quite honestly one of those party songs that gets everybody jumping,
mm-hmm.
and everyone goes crazy.
It has a little bit of a Western vibe, I think.
Yeah.
And also, again, just additional context. So 17, because there are so many members,
Mm-hmm.
have a unique structure as a group where they have more than one leader.
Right.
Because the vast majority of K-pop groups
have
one leader of the whole group. And 17 has those units, right? So hip hop unit, vocal unit, and performance unit. And so there's a leader of each unit.
Right.
So like Coops is the overall leader
and hip hop
unit leader. Yeah. And then Uji is vocal unit, and then Hoshi is the performance unit leader. So their subunit is the 3 of them.
Yes.
And they are arguably, at the risk of like carrots attacking me on the internet, the 3 of them are arguably the 3 most talented members of the group.
I agree.
Which is why they're the leaders, right? They are aces. They are quadruple threats. The 3 of them can literally do anything. And so for them to do a song together.
Yeah. It's magical.
Yeah.
It's on another level.
It really is.
I mean, it's what got me loving Scoops in the first place. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that we had a version 2 of it, everyone lost their minds.
And Donkey Pong Pong will always be famous.
With that little booty shaking and everything. And at the festival, Hoshi throwing up his middle finger.
I know.
And saying, like, let's fucking go. Like, it was a wild, wild time. And especially because I have like followed 17 for quite a while, like to hear them cussing in the first place,
right,
and like acting like fools is crazy to me.
And now their most recent comeback is literally titled "Fuck My Life."
Yeah.
And again, this is another thing that I love about 17, and also which is the reason that I loved Big Bang to begin with, and also Winner. So Winner is my other favorite group. YG groups in general were much less policed than other groups.
Yeah.
They have so much more freedom in their personal life.
Yes.
Of what they can and can't do, which is why I liked them. Like, Mino and Jiyoung smoke cigarettes at the club. They do whatever they want to do. They
Bobby
date.
has a baby.
Bobby has a whole baby. Like, they are not as, like, heavily policed, right?
Yeah.
They get to, like, live their lives. And that is something that I'm really drawn to in a K-pop group. Because the, like, over-sanitizing of a group of grown men making music in order to keep fans from being mad.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember, it was like 2018 before EXO's enlistment period started, and they went on a TV show, and Baekhyun was like, we're going to get married one day, and EXO Wells booed him on national television.
Yeah.
I was like,
but then Chen comes out and has 2 kids now.
Right, exactly.
And a wife.
And like, but the backlash of that was enormous.
Oh, yeah.
And like,
huge.
17 does whatever the fuck they want to do.
Yep.
And I really appreciate that about them.
I will say, like, as someone who has watched 17 for a really long time and like has seen all of these like dating scandals come out and everything, like 17 doesn't really have them. They have maybe a handful of them. And I mean, the most recent one of Scoops.
I don't even know about that one.
Oh, so recently there was a picture of a guy wearing a jacket that was similar to the one that Scoops wears in Fuck My Life. And someone posted this picture, and it was of him and I think another girl, and it was potentially Jennie. Who knows?
Oh my gosh. So everyone thinks Jennie from Blackpink is dating everyone.
Exactly. And so they posted this photo, and quite literally carrots were like, it can't be him. It can't be, because this person has a flat ass.
Exactly.
It was like,
I did hear about this actually. I forgot. Yeah, they were literally like, that's not Koopy's cake.
No, that is not his, because he has a big butt and everybody knows it.
He does.
And I mean, it's great. But
I'm not even a Cooperong, but I do stand Coop's ass for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's amazing. So the fact that his first dating scandal gets shut down just because of his ass, like, that's insane.
Yeah.
And
there was that scandal like a couple of months ago with like Vernon dating like a makeup artist, I think.
think,
or like a stylist.
something.
It was a stylist or
Yeah.
something. Oh, because she posted a picture of a teddy bear on her story.
Yes.
That Vernon also has.
Yes.
And she was like, my boyfriend gave me this.
Yeah.
And it's the most generic brown teddy bear you've ever seen.
And it was like, Vernon was seen with this teddy bear coming back from America. And you're like,
a fan bought him that from Target.
Yeah. I was like, I'm sorry, what?
I thought that was really funny. But again, like, there's no fallout from these scandals with 17 because they're like, we don't care.
We don't care.
And Pledis never makes them apologize for being human beings, which I like. So yeah, there's definitely been much less scandal.
Yeah.
And I think that's because they are less policed. They can just live life so they don't have to sneak around.
Right.
You know? But I think what I kind of want to talk about with our friendship with 17 and with K-pop in general is like, I feel like now where we're at in 2023, we are older K-pop fans now. Which I have kind of never graduated from my mindset of being a new K-pop fan.
Me either.
Because when I first got into them in 2016, my friend Allie, a different Allie, got me into K-pop formally by introducing me to BTS and Big Bang.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like the youngest person in the timeline of liking K-pop because my friends at that time all already liked it. But like since then, we have all, and then like you and like my fiance became K-pop fans like after me.
Yeah.
And now our friend group are all K-pop fans. And now we're seeing like people in high school becoming fans of K-pop.
Which is wild to me.
It's so wild because now it's still culturally very different, I think.
Yeah.
But the thing that's similar is like now there's a touring expectation similar to Western artists.
Right.
Whereas back then, if there was a tour date announced in America,
I was going.
We were like, it was literally like, I will drop my life savings to fly wherever they're going to be because we don't know if they're ever going to come back. It was so rare. And like the first US K-pop tour I heard of actually was the Wonder Girls opening for the Jonas Brothers in the early 2000s.
Oh, I did not know this.
Yes, and they played at a mall in Virginia Beach with the Jonas Brothers because the Jonas Brothers were like a brand new group. Like it was before they were really popular.
Yeah.
So like that's the kind of shit that we were used to.
Yeah.
And now we know that we're going to get arena or stadium tours of our favorite groups every year.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're a little bit spoiled now.
Yeah. And which is great, but at the same time, we don't have that kind of money.
Right?
I mean, like, we're adults and we make adult money, but we don't make that much adult money to the point where we can just, like, gallivant off to New York City every weekend just to see a new K-pop band.
Right.
It's difficult. And, like, you have to weigh out your options of, like, okay, well, 17 is my main goal this year because we don't know when they're going into the military.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I just missed TXT, but I know they are children compared to me.
They're not children.
I know. Like, they're younger, so it's going to be easier for me to see them next year.
They have a couple more years of career on them still, right? Like, the oldest member was born in 1999, so he has a couple of years left. So I feel like what I am thinking about a lot recently is that how our kind of schedules revolve around tour now because they just keep announcing tour dates for all the groups that we like. But if I pull it back to like the roots of what first got us into it, like we didn't have YouTube shows.
No.
We didn't have Instagram even.
No.
We didn't have Weverse. We had a music video and a prayer.
Yeah.
Back then.
Exactly.
And like I feel like that at the end of the day, like without all of this extra content, I would still be Carrot at the end of the day.
Same.
You know? And that feels like very important and special.
Yeah.
You know? And like bleeds out into other areas of our life and like our friendship because I feel like similarly we would still be friends without 17.
I think so too.
But our friendship is so much more fun.
Yeah.
Because of 17.
Exactly.
And like our lives are fun because of 17. You mentioned earlier like you've been a dancer all your life. And, like, now you're able to, like, marry dance with 17?
Yeah. So when I got into 17, it was obviously largely because of their dancing. Mm-hmm. So when I studied abroad, I got to live in a life where K-pop was at the roots of everything. Like where I studied abroad, they had a K-pop dance society. And so I joined and married my two loves of K-pop and dance and was able to learn dances every week. And then also have K-pop club nights on the month, like on a regular. And so I got so much content all the time and like around people that shared the love that I have. And so then when the pandemic hit, I didn't have that. And I mean, I had my friends, which was great, but there is that still that empty feeling of like, I can't dance anymore with K-pop. And then a local studio opened up in February of this year, and I've been able to dance every week with a new K-pop group and meet a bunch of people that all love dance and K-pop. And it's a special kind of connection that is not normal.
It's something that's easily accessible. No. It's very, very special.
It's so niche that like we are able to be around people that just, we are all multi-stands. Like we love our main group, but we are also in love with every other group, and we don't care what song is playing every week or being taught every week. We just want to be there and have fun and like vibe with K-pop and learn a new dance every week.
Well, and one of your first new friends there brought you a custom
birthday present.
But wasn't it like the second week that you went, they brought you a decorated Coops photo card?
Yes.
And that person barely knew you then.
Yeah.
And like made that for you. And like, again, like that's the thesis statement of the podcast for me.
Right.
From the outside, people think we're like cringe and weird.
Yeah.
But on the inside, it is one of the most like unifying, comforting, affirming, supportive environments.
Yeah.
If you find those right people, right? Like you were talking earlier about people online.
Yes.
There's always gonna be shitty people online.
Yes.
But like that person like at your dance studio, like making you a photo card, like
it was truly special.
Yeah.
And
that is everything.
Just the fact that she came up to class and said, "Hey, I made this for you." I was so touched. We had only been we had been in a program together. And so it was a month-long program of learning cheers. And then we filmed a video. And then we went to another show. Like we did another program together. Then like second practice, she comes with photo cards for me. And I was just so touched because that's a friendship that you just don't get on a regular, which was really cool.
Yeah. The like thoughtfulness in K-pop fandoms in particular, like if you have a shared interest with somebody, it unifies you in a way that that I think is very rare in other fandoms.
Yeah.
Right. And so just to kind of like close us out, I wanted to talk about from our perspective as Carrots, where 17 has been and where we think the future with them is going to take us.
Yeah. So 17 has been in a lot of places recently. I think they're definitely one of, without getting hate from other people, I think they're one of the most popular groups right now.
Totally.
In Korea and
in the States.
In the States. They're very well known by a lot of people, which me being the person that I am and like similar to you, I like being part of my niche crowd. Yeah. And so the fact that they aren't niche anymore makes me cry a little bit.
I know, like literally I talked about this in the Fall Out Boy episode. When a band that you love so much is finally successful to the level that they deserve to be, and you're so proud of them,
but you're also so heartbroken mad
because you're like, I don't want to share this with you. No. So yeah, and the pre-orders for the Fuck My Life album.
Yeah, I'm not.
The most pre-ordered album in K-pop history.
Yeah,
is a 17 album.
Yep.
That is crazy.
Yeah. That album debuted on the Billboard charts.
Yes.
Like super high.
Yes.
There was a bunch of things.
Top 10.
Top 10. There was a top 2 and number 1 on certain things.
Yeah, on the Mnet chart. Yeah.
And it was crazy how successful this last album was, which I am so proud of them. Yes. But I'm also scared for ticketing.
Yes.
Because that means it's going to be a lot harder for us to get tickets. But they started with nothing.
Right.
Like, they started so small.
A camcorder in a dream.
Yeah, quite honestly. And we've seen this, like, gradual boom of them. And it's so fascinating to watch it. And to see them go from just, like, a random stage in New York, like, small venue, all GA, to all the way to a stadium is going to be...
Capital One Arena.
Is amazing. Yeah. And just to see, like, a huge collective of carrots loving on them. It's totally what they deserve. And the future is probably going to be a lot of fighting with carrots to get tickets. And the future is also going to be a lot of solo stuff, which Scoops has said that something will be coming out. He doesn't know what it is, but something is going to be coming out. And that means in K-pop, we've got this new vibe, I guess, from every group. These third gen groups are going to start breaking off into solos. And a lot of times that means that after a solo project, they do go into the military. And that is what happened with all of EXO. And that's what's happening with all of, like, with Monsta X. And, like, you see it, and it's...
17 and Winner.
Yeah.
I feel like 17, this is maybe a optimistic prediction, but I think 17 is one of the groups post-hiatus that is going to come back as a full group.
I think so, too. Home. I fully believe that. And I think, like, they fully believe that, too. And... I mean, I have a feeling they're going to be one of those groups that is just around for a really long time.
Third gen Super Junior.
Yeah.
They're never going away.
They're never going to go away. But I also think they're going to never go away, but in different facets of K-pop. And, like, I think Woozy's going to be more, like, ingrained into other groups. And I think he's going to become a producer for Hive. I think he's going to start producing more for other groups, even though right now he's a sole producer for 17. Like, I think he's going to branch out into other groups, which I think is amazing.
And that's what Jiyoung did.
Yeah.
G-Dragon, like, when they became OT4, for reasons we will not speak on.
Yes.
And then, during enlistment and stuff, like, he became a producer for YG and produced for, like, younger groups in YG.
Yeah.
And I can definitely see Uji being a leader and a mentor in that way.
Yeah.
On the music side.
Same.
For sure. I can see Hoshi being a choreographer long term.
Yep.
I think they're going to have, like, full careers, and I think that they're flexible enough that they're able to, like, come back as a full group and stand on their, like, own, you know. So I'm excited for the future. One thing I've noticed about idols when they come back from enlistment is that they are a little bit less concerned about their idol image when they come home.
Which I think they're already pretty unconcerned about their idol image.
Totally.
And so the fact that they'll be less concerned about their idol images is kind of worrying.
I know, like, how much more, like, unfiltered can they get?
Yeah, exactly.
But I am, like, selfishly, as a Dino stan, I am excited for him to have his moment. Because as a Dino stan, and this is something that Dino Naras talk about all the time.
Yes.
There's this, like, famous tweet from, like, one of the most popular Dino accounts online that's like, why is it always Dino and his 12 Hyungs? Why is it never just Dino from 17, Lee Chen? And I do feel like he has a little bit of that as, like, the maknae of a group that's so large.
Yeah.
I am going to be really sad when other members enlist, older members enlist. But, like, as a Dino bias, like, I'm excited for him to have some space to cultivate his identity as an artist without 17.
And I think, like, so many of the members have their own, like, niche things that they do, whereas, like, Dino doesn't. I don't feel like Dino, like, knows who Dino is yet.
Yeah, I agree.
Whereas, like, Boo is a great MC.
Right.
Like,
yes.
You've got all the fashion icons of 17 who have been at Paris Fashion Week.
Mingyu is, like, a model.
Mingyu's a model.
And Mingyu will always be a model.
Yeah.
I think Hoshi in particular has that special sauce.
Yeah.
He's got, like, the it factor.
Yeah, and, like, he knows who he is. I think Dino just has not had the space to, like, really figure out who he is yet.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And so I'm definitely excited to see, like, how he grows over the next few years, as well as Vernon. I feel like of the maknae line, Vernon and Dino just, like they have their spaces, but they just don't feel like they...
I don't think either of them can stand on their own right now.
Right.
And I think Vernon is further ahead because of Black Eye.
Yes, I agree.
Black Eye gave Vernon such an identity.
Yeah.
Like, such a strong solo presence.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was because Band's Boy, let's be real. Band's Boy's not good.
No.
Okay? I have always felt like Vernon's voice is one of the most unique in 17.
Yeah.
I feel like Vernon's parts in songs are always really standout parts.
Yeah.
But, like, Black Eye really made Vernon noticeable to me as a solo artist.
Yeah.
And Dino really hasn't had that chance.
Yeah.
You know?
I think once Dino's 13 Tapes comes out, then
Yeah.
Dino will know who Dino is.
Yeah, definitely. And I think his 13 tape is going to come out during this enlistment period.
Oh, same. I agree.
So.
Well, I mean, these 13 tapes are going to take 13 years because right now there's a whole year.
Well, you should actually talk about what that is.
So 13 tapes is the solo projects of each individual member. Mm-hmm. So far we have 13 of the 13 tapes. We have Spider, mm-hmm. Which was Hoshi's. And then we have Ruby, which was Woozy's. Mm-hmm. And then we have Black Eye, which was Vernon's. Mm-hmm. And other artists other members of 17 have come out with solo projects, but it hasn't been a part of the 13 tapes brand.
Right. Which are official produced solo tracks from the label.
Right. And they have like an album that comes with it, and it's like a magazine type situation. And it's a solo project that they started when Hoshi came out with Spider. Mm-hmm. It has been a year in between each of them.
Yep.
So that's why we joke that it's going to be 13 years before it's done.
Which is a great marketing plan, actually.
It is.
I have a prediction that Coops will be next.
Yeah, so do I. And I'm going to cry when it comes out.
And then Jonghyun after him.
Yep.
And then I think after that, though, I think Joshua's will probably be one of the last because he doesn't have to serve.
Same.
So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to their solo projects. I'm looking forward to see where they all grow and change. I don't think this will be the last time that we talk about 17 on this podcast, probably.
Let's hope not.
Because there's so much to talk about around 17. But I wanted to, similar to the Fall Out Boy episode, just kind of like dive in a little bit. I felt like this was the appropriate time to talk about this because we became friends on your birthday, which is the shared 17 anniversary.
Yes.
KST. And we are here again now. So happy 8th anniversary, 17 and carats. And happy birthday.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining me today.
Of course.
We have these kinds of conversations all the time anyway.
We do.
And so
now it's just recorded.
Now it's just official, and other people can talk to us about it too if they want to. So is there anything that you want to promote or put out there or talk about? Maybe like about Dia or anything?
Sure. So Dia, DIA, is a dance studio in North Carolina. Check it out. We make videos all the time. It's a great place for people around the area to love on K-pop. Mm-hmm. Come join me.
Yeah, check out Joelle dancing on Instagram because she is amazing. Yeah, so as always, if you like the show, you can rate 5 stars. You can turn on automatic downloads, subscribe. The subscribe and automatic downloads really goes a long way to push the show in the music category, entertainment category. So definitely come through and let me know your thoughts. And also, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Get Your Fix Pod. And I would love for you to come and yell at me about 17. Come yell at Joelle about 17. Come hang out with us on Twitter and Instagram. Would love to hear your experience. If you are a carrot out there, would love to hear your stories about 17 and how you're connected to them. And if you're not a carrot, you will be after you listen to this episode.
Yes.
Hopefully. Stream Fuck My Life.
Stream Super.
Yes. So as always, thank you for joining me, and I will see you on the next episode of